Today's message from Reverend Christian Sorensen was recorded August 14th, 2016, and it's titled The Bull. Subtitled, What's Essential is to Turn Within and Remember that light, that purpose, and that passion you came here to deliver. You can visit us at seasidecenter.org and always join us in Encinitas, California on any Sunday at 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock services. And we always have really great music, a spirited message, and a joyful, loving, vibrant community that awaits you.
Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home, 'cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here.
All right, so here we go. Hey, this morning's message is The Bull. And I thought that was a unique enough title, I better preface it with where it came from. Yes. Okay. Well, anyway, it comes from this great book called The Joyous Abundance Journal. And, no, that's all I'm telling you. Where I wrote. So, do you know people who are like a bull in a china shop? In that they're so out of touch with what actually is happening that they just bull their way through? Yeah, okay, I get that. Anyways, hey, their conversations are so full of their stuff that it seems that they have forgotten to listen to the discussion that's actually at hand. They come from their egoic self and their soul, and not their soul. They come from their ego self and not their soul. My eyes, man, come on. Okay, so they come from their ego and not their soul, though their head is quick to tell everybody that it's all about heart. Their recommendations come from what they think is better, but they totally miss what is best. So that's where it came from. And I mean, yeah, it's powerful. I actually thought I was going to call it, Stop the Bull. But I thought, just stick with that. But, that's the thing. And we've all been around those individuals that are just so full of themselves that they're not really present. Their head's off in the conversation, wherever it's, and it just doesn't, there's not the heart connection there. You follow me? And we don't want to be that, though maybe sometimes we have been that. But it's important for us not to let our light go out, have somebody blow it out, or to get so caught up in ourselves that we snuff it out. And there was this wonderful race that was done in the Olympics a couple thousand years ago. It was done in Greece, in Greece. But Greece would have been a good spot. Greece is all about the light. But anyway, in Greece, a couple thousand years ago, it was called the torch race, where they would, at the start, would have the torch lit. And they had to run this long race and not let the light go out. And the first one to cross the finish line with the lit torch wins. So it's not about being the first one to cross the finish line with the torch that is out, because if you cross the finish line with the torch that has no light, disqualified, it doesn't count. So what becomes the predominant thought as they run this race is to keep the light lit. Now, is that a metaphor or what? That we are doing this thing called life, that what's most important is to keep that light lit when the winds are blowing, when the rains are storming, is to be able to not allow that light to go out and not to be bowled over, but rather to allow that light to shine. So when we come to the finish line, that light is shining. It's not about just starting the race. It is about completing it with your light shining for others to see. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of people who have gone out there in life with their passion, with their light on, and all of a sudden, they have just over time had their light extinguished, and they're still moving. They're like zombies. You ever see these guys? They're like zombies. They're moving through life. You look in their eyes, and there's nobody home. Right? There's just no light that is there. So that's the time you come to Seaside. We'll relight your light here. You can do your spiritual practices by yourself, but I'll tell you what, you can't do community by yourself. And you look around this room, and these are your brothers and your sisters that are here on this spiritual path with you that will help you keep that light lit, that torch going. And remember that you want to keep that light going everywhere. I mean, I can remember one time going on the plane to Costa Rica. I always work early to get good seats, bulkhead, the extra stuff. And I can remember one time on the plane, and we were leaving Houston, and we had pretty good seats, and there was this newlywed couple that came onto the plane, and you could just see their eyes twinkling, and you could tell they had that glow. That they were newlyweds, you could tell. And and the guy got the center seat in the bulkhead. And the realization came that they had separate seats, and the bride was like a row back or two behind in the center. And it's like, oh, that's like pretty sad. But there was a woman who was sitting next to the husband who saw that. And she was quick to say, and it could have been, she was she was old enough to be the bride's mom, and said to her, you know what, would you like my seat? And it was like, everybody just, she paid extra money to get that bulkhead or whatever. And she was giving up the seat, and as she sat down, and someone said, hey, why'd you do that? And she said, I remember when I was a newlywed, and and it moved my heart. And I'm on a plane to the gorgeous beaches of Costa Rica. I'd be willing to sit in the cargo compartment, for that. And so often we get so caught up. I got to have my good seat. Here I am. I worked hard. I was not giving up my seat. I was keeping my good seat. And here is this woman who was not caught up in the condition for her happiness, but rather she brought the happiness with her. And what brought her joy was to give that seat to somebody. All of a sudden, as we're flying ever higher, I'm thinking how I allow myself to be controlled by the conditions of having a good seat. And here she was bringing the happiness with her. She was a lot closer to heaven at 35,000 feet than I was. Don't allow the bull to just bull you over and get you stuck. For her, it was no problem. You ever hear that? No problem. How about in Jamaica? No worries, man. No stress. I like the one that's out there these days. No drama. Now that's a good affirmation, right? No drama. I like that. Some of us just really, that drama is kind of part of life, but there's others who drama is their life. Have you noticed them? You talk about the bull in the china shop. It's like everything is dramatic in their world. It's like, come on, give me a break. It's not that bad. It's just a seat, for heaven's sake. But when you want to do this battle, all of a sudden, that light gets diminished a little bit more. You've got to recognize that if you want to do this drama, even like the antagonists, even the worst antagonists still think they're the protagonist. They think they're the good guy, and there's good and there's bad. And I want to be on the good side. But if you realize if you want to be the good in this story, you got to have the bad. You got to have someone who's willing to be the bad guy for you. Did you ever see Mad Magazine with Spy versus Spy? Anybody remember that? Yes, there's two of us. Okay. I won't go into it, but there's a guy, one spy wore black, another wore white. They were always trying to beat up or outdo or get the other person's secrets. Nobody ever won, which is really the point I was going at. And all, the stories, the books you read, and the plays you've seen, and the movies you watch, have the protagonist and the antagonist. And, it's bad, and it kind of got the victim in there, right? But when you leave the movie, most of the time, it's a happy ending. Like, ta-da, the underdog won, And with victims, there tends to be, the power person and the weak person. But in the movies, they tend to win. But what I've noticed in life, it's not that underdogs don't win, but those with a victim consciousness continue to attract to themselves those challenges, those dramas, those difficulties, those things that will blow out that light on the torch that they have been carrying. And you have that kind of consciousness, that's what's going to come your way. And I love what Esther Hicks said. Abraham, she said, just because you shine in crisis doesn't mean you have to have a crisis to shine. Actually, it was Esther who said that, right? So it was good you clap for her anyway. But what I've noticed is when the things do come up in life, and the winds are blowing, and that torchlight's being challenged, we start to bull ourselves. We start to get strong. But imagine if what came up in that challenge or that difficulty was just like information. And you took it just as data, not like, I need to get upset. You got that? It's like when the drama shows up, I don't need to flip out. blow up, get upset, get angry. It's just data. It's just information. And I get to assimilate it and deal with it from a non-attached point of view. Norman Vincent Peale, the early guy in the New Thought movement, really power positive thinking, he said, one should take all emergencies leisurely. I like that. Emergency, relax, get centered, don't freak out, get calm. Because of what's coming out of your mouth, it starts casting that vibration that allows you either to be going through something with grace and ease or to become the victim. You when you articulate, there's a power there. In the Bible, in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 2, it says we're snared by the words from our mouth and caught by the words on our lips. In other words, you get trapped by what it is you're putting out there. You get to decide whether you're going to move through this or whether this is going to be difficult. What's going on? Are you able to approach this dynamic with an ease and a grace with the light that is shining inside of you? Or are you going to fight and duke it out? There are approaches. But you get to decide how your approach is going to be. You don't need to be a reactionary in life. You can be moved by the Spirit on how to be. Last week as I prayed and shared about my cat, Zachariah, who went missing after 15 years. And, we had a party at our house and we let him out the front door like we often do in the evenings. He was an indoor-outdoor orange tabby. He was a tough guy, and being locked up was not his approach to life. I gave him his kitten shots when he was little at 6 weeks, and he never went back to the vet. That kind of cat. He was one that if he didn't like what I fed him, he went out and caught his own. This is the kind of cat that he was. And so as I shared last week, he disappeared. And what I noticed is I didn't start talking about, oh no, we live on a canyon, there's coyotes, I wonder what happened, the owls, you can hear them screeching for their mates come the fall, we know they're in the hood. But instead, I shared with Callie, if he left this world, he'd let me know. We spent 15 years together. We're buds. He would let me know. And so I prayed Sunday morning with all of you, if you remember. That night I had a dream. I woke up and told Callie, I had a dream with Zach, and that I saw him out on the street, and there were a couple dogs that were being walked, and they were on the leash, and they started barking, and they wanted to attack him, but they never got him. And I think, wow, what does that mean? I don't really know. But now I realize, because that afternoon as I gave my mail, I spoke to my neighbor and said, hey, have you seen our orange cat? He said, oh, yeah. Just the other morning, we saw him, right between your neighbor's house and you on the front lawn, and there he was. He had expired. He had died. He looked very peaceful. No dogs or anything had got him. No fur was pulled. No blood. He wasn't hit. He just passed out. And as I think about that cat, one, I was just grateful that I had the closure, completion of the neighbor said, hey, that's what happened to your cat. He didn't get flown away by an owl. But that's not where I went. What I went is he would let me know and said, hey, man, I'm done. I'm not going to cost you $10,000 on cancer tests because I'm sick. I'm sure not going to take medicine or go to that doctor now at this point in my life. I am out of here. And boom, and there he went. And what I get is that when we are able to be in touch with our soul and our spirit, we are able to trust the unfoldment of life. Soren Kierkegaard, the great Danish mystic, well, I don't know if he's a mystic, I like the Dane, so I call him that. He's probably a philosopher. But the great philosopher, Danish philosopher, Viking brother, he said life isn't a problem to be solved, it's a reality to be experienced. You got that? Life's given, it's not mine to solve. I'm to move through it with the ease and the grace and the trust. I'm to bring the love and the kindness to what I do. I'm not going to bull my way through the china shop and just make a greater mess because I get angry or someone pushes my buttons and the drama happens and I get upset. You know what? I'm going to come from kindness. Always. Today is not the exception to come from kindness. Or tomorrow. Today's not the exception to come from love, to come from caring, to come from compassion. Because I'll tell you what, life responds to that. So do people. You bring a light, you have light. You bring darkness, you got darkness. Your kids are watching you. You notice that? But sometimes we forget. There was a George, 6-year-old, Sunday afternoon, nobody out, driving down the street with his dad. And Dad just kind of drives right through the stop sign. Nobody's out there, no problem. But George says, hey, Dad, my teacher said we're supposed to always stop at stop signs. He said, well, there's nobody out there. Nobody saw us. There weren't any police. Nobody saw us. No harm, no foul. We're okay. When George was 12, his mom took him to the movies. And Mom said as she was buying a ticket, hey, if anybody asks, you're 11 years old. Then we can get you a kid ticket. You're not 12. Yeah. When George was 16, heard his dad talking to the tax guy, and heard his dad saying, hey Charlie, you know what? Forget those extra dollars I was telling you about. There's no paper trail. There's no sign of where it came from or that's mine. Since there's no record of it, there's no need to really pay any taxes on it, so we'll just let that one go. George is 18. He's off at college at the university. Yeah, Bruce, our tax guy. You didn't hear that one. But anyway, George is off at the university. And 6 months into it, the parents get a letter from the university. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Jones, your son George has been expelled from the university. He has violated our code of honor, and we caught him cheating on the midterm exams. Parents said, George, how is that possible? Not our son. He comes from a good home. And Dad said, but how could he do that to us? And all of a sudden, there is this total denial of where that came from. If you remember last week, we were saying a mother's song sticks with a child from the cradle to the grave. What is it that they are getting from you? And our kids are watching us, even if they don't live with you around here. So where are you taking your light and your love, your sense of community? Who's your sangha you're hanging out with? I like to say, don't take advice from unhappy people. It's just like a given there, And don't allow somebody who's not living their dreams to tell you how to live your dreams. Hello, it is right. And don't have someone tell you how to live your destiny based on their regards. You need to listen to yourself and allow that light of your being, that torch that you're carrying through this world on that relay race to wherever it is you're to take it, to keep that going. That is your job and your responsibility. I love what Bette Midler, she said, don't ever, I gotta get in my head first before I give it to you. I want to get it close to correct anyway. Forever. Oh man, where's that going? Come back. There's so much going on up there. You wouldn't believe what I'm seeing. She said, forever stick with your uniqueness, because once it's gone, you're a yawn. Okay? So forever stick with your uniqueness, because once it's gone, you're a yawn. You're just like, that's your specialness. That is your uniqueness. And the thing about life is it's dynamic. It's a dazzling mess, if you want to know the truth about it. It's just, life is messy. That's what it is. Things are dynamic. They're moving. It's hard to get things put because life is about motion. It is fluid. Have you ever built a house or did a remodel and you had, it's a mess. You got sawdust, drywall dust. You got to get permits. You got to stay on top of the budget that is there. Or what about kids? You talk about mess. Oh my goodness, birthing is messy. Toys all over the place is a mess. And then they get sick, and then get tattoos, and life is an adventure in the uncontrolled, if you want. It's just an uncontrolled adventure, this messy thing called life. In metaphysics, we like to say you surrender to it, you have faith, you trust. But it's an adventure in the uncontrolled. You're stepping out there, but knowing that you have this light that's going to show you where your next step is on your path, that I don't need to bull my way through this, and I got to stop the bull and begin to say, there's a light that is showing me what is next in my world, and I'm going to give up my littleness. I'm going to be willing to give up my seat on that plane. I'm going to give up my pettiness. There's a story. No, I didn't do it the first service. I don't know if it's too appropriate, but you guys can take it. Anyway. It's Mullah Nasruddin. Nasruddin, he's that rascally Sufi sage that all sorts of metaphysical stories are told through. And his friend Camille was asking Nasruddin, how come you've never been married? And he said that, all those women that I have been, really intrigued with all seem to have a fatal flaw. And she said, oh yeah, like what? And she said, well, like Susan from London. She was sweet, but she had this big nose, and I just couldn't overlook it. And then there was Olga, a Russian heiress, beautiful, but a very dull lover. And then, Tatiana, Italian, passionate, but just emotional, volatile, just so wild in her volatileness. And the guy said, was there not anybody you ever found? And he said, yeah, there was Ingrid of Sweden. Oh, just amazingly attractive, intelligent, good nature, awesome lover. And he said, and so why didn't you marry her? And he said, well, because she was looking for the perfect man. Life has a way of just kicking it back to us. It's like you will get to reap what it is you are stowing out there in the world. And if you have turned into a zombie and have lost your passion and you don't have the light, you tend to just kind of be moving around out there. Life is going to have twists and turns, and it comes down to what you're going to do with it. You can decide. Callie and I, we've been together 25 years, and I can remember one of the things that used to irritate me a little bit. I don't know if I should. Yeah, I can share that. I've never let on that there was anything. But, my pens are how I write my talks in the color. And they're ink pens, so you got to put the cap on. But Callie had a habit of not putting the cap back on the pen, so when I got to the desk, the cap was off the pen, and, it would really bother me until one day, when I was sitting at the desk and I found the pen cap off and the pen didn't work, it dawned on me, what could be worse than, the cap off the pen? And then I realized to have the cap on the pen and not to have Callie. So to this day, when I find the cap off the pen, it just reminds me of her presence and how much I love her. You get to decide what you're going to do with what's going on in life. You're going to let the winds blow out that torch or that light, or you're going to just allow it to move you to what's next and best that is available to you. One of the practices I give in one of my classes, actually the foundation class in September, is an exercise on beauty. And the assignment or the exercise is all week long just to have your mind be aware of the beautiful that's coming out of your mouth, of what it is you're seeing, of the deeds that you're doing. And as you begin to focus on what's beautiful, you also notice that which is coming out of your mouth that's not so beautiful, or the deeds that you're doing that are not so beautiful, or what you're looking upon. And all of a sudden, it's interesting when you are committed for that week to look at what is beautiful, that which is not beautiful begins to just not feel right in your life anymore. It's like I'm starting to come out of my mouth. You know what? I'm not going there with that. That's just not it. And it's this regular practice of going to spirit, of connecting with that which is beautiful, of remembering that light that is inside of you that you are carrying in this world. And I like one of the things about Zig Ziglar said is that he's often asked, or the statement that is made to him, that, Zig, motivation just really doesn't last. And he likes to respond with, well, either does bathing, which is why I recommend it every day, These spiritual practices need to be done every day. And as you're willing to look inside yourself, when you look at a calm lake, the calmer the lake, the more perfect the reflection. The calmer the mind, the more perfect the reflection of that higher perspective, of that mountaintop perspective, of that God realization in the dynamic or the drama or the challenge that you are in. I do not need to give the power away to the antagonist. I do not need to let that information erupt inside of me, anger or upset. What I'm going to do is allow that situation to move me to an even greater place and fulfill that for which I've come here to do. Yes. Back in the Olympics in Mexico City, they were doing the marathon race. That was a long race. And there was this young guy from Tanzania who was running the race. And well into the race, there was an accident. He fell. He broke his leg. There was blood, bruises. It was a mess. But he refused to quit. I don't know how he could even move with a broken leg, but he got up, everybody just passed him by. And the whole marathon crew ran into the stadium. They ran their final lap, and it was good, and then people left. That was the end of the show. It was the last thing of the day. They turned off the main lights. There are still, a few thousand people just lingering around. 2 hours later, this kid from Tanzania who didn't give up, how with a broken leg it was even possible, came hobbling into a fairly empty stadium, a few thousand people left, not the 100,000. Lights are off. And he started making his way around the final lap. And the people that were still sitting around there talking began to see him. And they started to cheer. They started to applaud this kid. And all of a sudden, all the few thousand that were there were standing up as if this kid was coming in to win the gold medal. As he was making the final round, his hands went up and he was made to feel like a champion as they were standing on their seats or coming down to the finish line to greet this kid who came across. Now, all the news crews were gone. I mean, there were a couple cameras. Somebody caught it on film because what happened is, well, it wasn't viral in those days, but it went across the news stations across the globe. And one of the interviewers asked this kid from Tanzania, it said, why? I mean, you broke your leg. It was not your fault if you would have quit. And what this kid said is that my country didn't send me 7,000 miles to start a race. They sent me to finish it. We weren't birthed into this world just to start. We came here with a passion and a purpose and a light. And yes, you're carrying that torch. There's going to be the winds and the storms that are going to try to put it out. And there will be those times you'll try to bull your way through. But what is essential is that you turn within and remember that light and that purpose and that passion that you came here to deliver, to take to the finish line. And what will happen is you will be a blessing to all of us. You will enrich this world, and your friends and your family will be there cheering you on because you will be a blessing and a light bearer, the torch bearer for all to see that things are not only a possibility, but a reality to be experienced. And you will be the living example of that. God bless us as we do it.
Such a long way home from where you have been. And what will it take to bring you back again? And all your searching's brought you to this place. You cry for mercy and you long for grace. Feel the love, feel the light. Won't you come in from the cold? 'Cause all are welcome here. Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home. 'Cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here. Can you hear the sound, the whisper in your soul? It calls you back to where you belong. And all your searching's brought you to this place. You cry to this place. You cry for mercy and you long for grace. Feel the love, feel the light. Won't you come in from the cold? 'Cause all are welcome here. Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home. 'Cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here. Here.
All Are Welcome Here, from the album Path of Light, was co-written by Peggy Lebo and Reverend Christian Sorensen. It's available at www.peggylebo.com.